Big-time middleweight action on the fringes of the top 15. Coming up this weekend, we have Janjiro Muay Thai's own Chidi Bang Bang Njokuani taking on Poland's Hussar, Michal, Oleksiejczuk, and Matt, for both of these guys in dire need of a win. Oleksiejczuk's last time out, he got submitted by Caio Borralho. For Njokuani, lost a chintzy split decision to Albert Daraya. But for both of these guys, a lot of success outside of the UFC before they made the walk. And for Oleksiejczuk, he was near the top of the pile with FEN. His brother, Sajari, is a champion over there, so that's awesome to see down a weight class. And Oleksiejczuk's an interesting guy because he's bounced between 205 and 185, but he really seems to have found a home at middleweight in the UFC. And performance bonuses, they've been there for Oleksiejczuk. He even had a debut win over Khalil Roundtree. All three judges scored at 30-27, but the Athletic Commission, they said, you came in a little bit too hot on the drug test. So for Oleksiejczuk, a high-level competition in the two weight classes. For Njokuani, you knew him when he fought for Tachi Palace fights against Max Griffin in a main event. You knew him when he was with Bellator. At one point, he was on the poster supposed to take on Douglas Lima, but at other points, Njokuani was fighting the Koreshkovs of the world, and so on and so forth. And for Njokuani, couldn't make the weight at 170 anymore, made the move up to 185, and even in his last fight with Bellator, struggled to make that weight class when he took on the former longtime champ, Rafael Carvalho. He had a little bit of a layoff, wins at LFA 91, wins on Contender Series, and then blows through the competition to join the UFC. So Njokuani's had his share of bonus money in the UFC as well. And even in the second to last fight, a loss against Gregory Rodriguez, that was the fight of the night as well. He busted up Robocop between the eyes, couldn't get it done early, got finished as that one went on. But when you look at both these guys, Matt, I mean, Njokuani, orthodox striker, loves to throw the kicks up to the body. For Michal Oleksiejczuk, people might have seen it on my Twitter today. The guy has fought in 11 fights in the UFC. I can count on both hands how many leg kicks Michal Oleksiejczuk has thrown in the UFC. He's thrown 8 total. 7 of them were very, very early on against Khalil Roundtree. He threw 1 against OSP. The last time Oleksiejczuk threw a leg kick going into this was 1,428 days ago. But by golly, by gosh, can he ever get it done with his boxing? And that's what's gotten Oleksiejczuk this far.
Most pitchers can't hit home runs because they don't have to. And for Michal Oleksiejczuk, kicks aren't really a part of his game, and I gotta be honest, I'm here to say I like that. Because if he is on the outside throwing those kicks, he holds his hands quite low, especially for his own boxing combinations, and that would result in him getting hit, especially in a matchup like this against Chidi Njokuani. But I gotta be honest, this is one of the few odds that I did look up before we started filming. I'm surprised they're so close, and maybe what I'm about to say is gonna be slightly controversial. I figured Oleksiejczuk would have been a bigger favorite, and this is why. The way that he fights is a pressure forward fighter, which eliminates a lot of the kicks from Chidi Njokuani. It's difficult to throw body, leg, and head kicks while you're moving backwards, and Njokuani's a guy who will give up space and will give up distance in his fights. So for Njokuani, unless he is able to get off to such a hot start to where, hey, my kicks are taking such an effect on Oleksiejczuk to where he can't move around as well as he normally does, or hey, I'm able to just, throw a crazy flying knee and get the job done, I just worry about what Njokuani's going to do as his plan B and his plan C, because we do bring up that Khalil Roundtree fight all the time for Oleksiejczuk, and I know he failed the drug test afterwards, but he showed a part of his game in that fight, at least a lot of it, that we don't often see, because a lot of people know him for the great boxing and the outside movement. He wrestled the heck out of Khalil Roundtree, went for double-digit takedown attempts, accomplished a lot of those takedowns as well, and that is his plan B. Although we don't often see it, I think he will use the wrestling and some of the grappling if things aren't going his way, especially at distance, but I think he's going to be able to use the boxing to get on the inside. I know he's not a fighter who really overwhelms his opponent with his volume, but he does do a good job of at least closing the distance and landing his own power shots. So for Njokuani, I think he's going to have to get after those kicks really early to establish that distance, because if he does find himself just backing up, the Gregory Rodriguez fight was a great one, just to be a fan of watching a fight. But the second he couldn't knock out Gregory Rodriguez and Rodriguez put those hands up and started moving forward, and Njokuani was just a recipient to a lot of that damage. And again, I don't think this fight's going to follow that exact script, but Oleksiejczuk has a lot of those tools in his own toolbox, and I do think he moves better on the outside than even a guy like Gregory Rodriguez does.
And Njokuani, again, his last time out, split decision loss to Duraev. I thought Njokuani had done enough round 2 and round 3. I'm definitely in the minority in the third third round on that one. But if you go back and you watch it, he's able to land those big shots, and he struggled with the takedowns early in that fight. And that's always been a story, not just of his career, but his brother Anthony always struggled against the takedown, even outside of the UFC. So when you do look at this one, Lord Michael is the slight favorite in the matchup. If he's taking on a better wrestler, he tends to struggle there. If he's taking on a poor wrestler, as he is tonight, or on this weekend's card, he tends to have a lot of success. You look at the Tapology votes, Matt, surprised us there to you. I do think that they're going to be close. I'm going to say over under 65% Oleksiejczuk.
I'm thinking 70-30, so I'll say above.
And it is under 775 total votes, 57% Oleksiejczuk, 74% by knockout. For the 43% that have Njokuani, 72% by knockout. And the thing that you like out of Oleksiejczuk, though I don't know how it's going to work out in this matchup, again, Southpaw versus Orthodox, especially with a guy that kicks a lot out of the opposite stance, Oleksiejczuk loves to go 3-2 all the time. And he likes to go to the head with that shot, or he'll go to the body, and he sets things up a lot really well, either jab or throwing that straight down towards the body to open up the head. Oleksiejczuk's one of the better boxers you're going to find at 185 or 205. It's just how much of a toll those kicks take on him. If we get to that point, you have Michael Oleksiejczuk in the fight.
Yeah, I thought the odds were going to be much heavier in his favor. I thought he was going to be like a minus 175, almost minus 200. Again, it just comes down to, it's difficult to kick a boxer. Like, Shannon Briggs had a K1 fight all the way back when. You guys might know who Shannon Briggs is. Let's go, champ! But he
Logan Paul's guy.
Either way, what he proved was, if you're a really good boxer, yes, you might not have all the tools that your opponent has, because he was getting his legs beat up early in that matchup. But if you go chest to chest with a kickboxer, they can't really kick you, and it all comes down to your hands. I think Michael Oleksiejczuk is going to emphasize his boxing distance, and I think that's also going to help open up the takedown. So for those reasons, I've got Oleksiejczuk.
Oleksiejczuk's a 6-4 fighter in the UFC, and he did beat Khalil Roundtree. That is true. It is a no contest. But if you do look at some of these fights, Oleksiejczuk's fight that he had against the similar fighter in Modestas Bukauskas was an insanely close fight, because Oleksiejczuk, it seemed, respected a lot of the power out of his opponent. And when you look at the big shots out of Njokuani, I think he blasts Oleksiejczuk out of the water in this fight, and I don't think it's going to be close. So we're split on the pick in this one. You let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Matt going with Oleksiejczuk. I'm going with Chidi Njokuani. Some big time fights on this card, including a co-main event that you are not going to want to miss. And if you do look at this one overall, Holloway taking on Korean Zombie in the main. So why would you even bother just switching out of it? Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.